Hello and welcome to another League of Legends tutorial on this Gameplay Monday. And in this particular jungle matchup, we're going to be looking at Jarvan IV versus Evelynn. We have all the best players in the world playing in the Korean server at the moment, so there's no shortage of footage and matchups. If there's a particular matchup you'd like to see in a future Gameplay Monday, please let me know in the comments below. Now, while these two champions are quite different in their own right, Evelynn's team did have a Talon. Now, it's very difficult to play and very obnoxious to play against a Talon when you are a jungler, especially if he knows how to shove, ward, and roam. So we're going to look at a few of those situations. If you're against a Zed in your elo, an LB, anything like that loves to shove and roam and ward, you're going to see some of the traps that the Jarvan actually falls for that we can try and avoid, but at the same time how we play around that and get ourselves back into the game. To that same end, how the Evelynn uses her positioning, map speed, and of course camouflage to get really fed. So as usual, if you enjoy this and learn something, don't forget to like and comment and of course share it. So into the gameplay, both junglers are starting off with their red buffs, with the Evelynn of course on the top side. Now it's important to realize when you try to go for an invade, as this Jarvan's about to do, is if you have no idea whether or not the river's warded. Now at a high elo game in Korea, the river's probably warded. In a lower elo game on another server, probably not. But when you go for that invade, it's really easy to go for it if you know for certain the enemy jungler isn't coming directly to that blue buff. Of course they know that the Evelynn started red because the enemy bot lane was in lane first, but because your bot lane leashed for you, the enemy bot lane's gonna have that level 2 priority and they're gonna be pushing them back, which means you're not going to have lane priority should the Evelynn and the enemy bot lane collapse on you while you're trying to steal her blue. All these things happen. It was warded, she did see him, and they all collapse on him. Now, in the last video I talked about micro mechanics. You see here the Jarvan does a great job with that. He's very patient. He waits until the last second to smite the blue buff for some HP before flashing over the wall and then using his EQ combo to try create some distance. Unfortunately for him, the Lucian has a brain and had anticipated such a move and moved around and cut him off. The Soraka on his team does try to heal and save him, but it's to no avail. But she is able to salvage the situation slightly by killing the Evelynn. So both are junglers, one buff and dead. However, it's definitely better for the Evelynn because of course the Lucian got the kill. Now after they both respawn, they mirror each other exactly. The Jarvan takes a scuttle, the Evelynn takes a scuttle. They both get that gold, which is of course equivalent to Grump early, so it's definitely useful. You don't want to ignore your scuttles. I see that way too many times, people just ignoring the scuttles. It's a lot of gold if you just give it freely to the enemy jungler all game. Imagine if they get 4 or 5 scuttles in a row, that's a lot of gold, that's free pink wards. And of course they take their blue buff. Now the Jarvan is taken as wolves that is going to move to the bottom side of the map, whereas the Evelynn takes her Grump and does the same. And this is where you want to be very careful about how you approach the jungle versus a Talon, because if a Talon can get into your jungle and sit in bushes and camp you, you're not going to have a fun time at all. So here the Jarvan sees the Talon coming down to his raptor pit and waits patiently. He notices a ward get placed because he's paying attention to it, and you'll notice that the first thing he bought on his back was a pink ward. He places it so he can destroy that green. He needs to be as hidden as possible while he's moving throughout the jungle, as well as of course seeing, the Talon move around the map, which is great for his entire team. Jarvan has decided to clear his raptors, but while that's happened, Evelynn now knows he's taking those raptors thanks to Talon's pressure and of course vision. So she pinks the bottom tri-bush to make sure it's clear, and then she can go and gank the Soraka. Because the Soraka used both her summoner spells killing Evelynn a few minutes earlier, so Evelynn knows that she can take advantage of that to snowball her bot even further, especially since the Lucian got that first blood onto the Jarvan. And now look again, Jarvan is being chased by the Talon. He's gone to his Krugs, he's doing his Krugs while all this is happening. Evelynn's team even manages to turn around and kill the Ezreal also. Meanwhile the Talon has gone down and warded the Krugs so that they can track Jarvan even better. He's forcing him to clear those camps and forcing him to play much more defensive because there's no ways he can walk into the river entrances and try and counter gank, especially when Talon is guarding those bushes. So jungling in this kind of situation can be very, very difficult. The most important thing for you is to be very patient and know that you are a tankier, better team fighter. You have a lot of CC and you will have your time. The key here is just to be patient. Don't feed unnecessarily. Don't greed versus the Talon, and don't feed him most of all. So yes, your bot lane is now losing. Evelynn got herself fed as well, but you've got your camps, you got those lovely Krugs, stacks of XP and gold. Be patient. So Jarvan of course has moved up to the mid with Soraka to try get a gank on. They run into the Shen, nothing comes of it, and instead of wasting time walking all the way back, he knows the Evelynn is most likely gone to a top side to clear those Krugs and Raptors again because he would have cleared the whole bottom side, or at least he thinks. That's why he doesn't check the wolves. But at the same time, you don't want to stick around too much because if the Evelynn and Talon and Shen all collapse on you, you're 100% going to die. You know that the Shen used his taunt to get off the wall, so he's not going to be able to walk all the way around and stop you from going back, even though the plant does show you're over there. So now with this in his mind, he knows that Evelynn's probably gone to the top side, he's gone back, there might be a play on the mid lane because she'll have no camps up and she'll be ready to gank again. So he moves directly to the mid lane in anticipation in order to counter gank. This is also because the Puppy has already killed the Talon 1v1 at the beginning of the game, when Jarvan was invading. At the same time, she's done a great job chunking him down to be quite low, so it's inviting Evelynn to come in and try and kill the Poppy, who is not so high on HP herself. While he moves on up, he's able to counter gank nicely. He hits his EQ combo onto the Evelynn and slows her. Poppy ignites her, but she just lives. But because of that tower diving greed by the Poppy, Talon decides, hey, I can probably kill her quickly and get out, but Jarvan just smacks him in the face. Big ol' slap. So that's a great counter gank for Jarvan, great anticipation, great job of reading the map and understanding how the Evelynn was probably going to move, and they come out ahead a little bit. With Evelynn's passive, her charm, her talisman, her smite, she can easily heal up very, very quickly after taking the wolves, and basically then moves on down to the Gromp on the bottom side of the map. Thanks to good wards by Jarvan's team, they do see her because she isn't 6 yet, and the gank in the mid lane gave Jarvan the priority on the new scuttle which spawned on the top side. After that, he can go take his wolves, and you'll see him pinging in the MIA on the red buff because he knows it's coming up soon and he's anticipating Evelynn to be there. However, Evelynn has actually moved to the bottom side of the map. Now, because of her added kill pressure and the fact that she absorbed some minion waves in the mid lane, she's reached 6 already and has moved on down to the bottom side to gank again. Talon has cleared the mid lane, pushed it out, and now he's also roamed down. Jarvan is so afraid of Talon invading him and stealing his buff that he goes from his wolf straight to the red buff, and he pulls it into the bush to take it and make sure he smites it just in case. Now, that lack of vision and the fact that it's Talon who loves to do this causes this cautious behavior by the Jarvan, and it's unfortunate he didn't continue that trend because he walks on by his Krugs straight past the bush without checking it. You can always throw your flag in to check, and if it's not up, just wait, because guess what? Talon's right there, he ults ignites and you're dead. And now the enemy team can simply tower dive the bottom lane on that level 3 Soraka because she roamed so much in the early game and of course got killed 2 or 3 times. It's very easy for Evelynn and Talon to do that. 4-man dive on the bot lane, nothing anyone can do about it, but Evelynn and Talon now get a bit more fed, and so does the enemy Lucian. Jarvan was so focused on getting that level 6 and defending his red buff that the caution from his Talon and the fact that Poppy was shoving the mid lane out herself means that there's no counterplay here. If he checked and saw Talon in the bush, maybe there's something he can do by rotating underneath the tower to try and defend with his EQ, but again, it's very risky considering Soraka's only level 3 and everyone else has their ults. And of course, Jarvan doesn't have a 6 yet, but he does have Predator, and he immediately moves straight down to the bot lane again because the Poppy attempted to salvage the situation but wasn't able to get anything. But there's a lot of low HP bars on the red team. They sort of scattered a little bit, and now they're trying to sort of retreat and go back as efficiently as possible. But Jarvan moves on down as fast as he can. He's got that Predator. Poppy makes a great play on the Talon. They're able to kill him, and then Jarvan just goes all in on the Shen, ults him to burst him down before he can actually go back. Great double kill for him, and now him and Soraka can move up and steal that blue buff away from the Evelynn. So even though a play didn't go so well for him, and he didn't anticipate the Talon camping in a bush, his quick movement gets him a double kill and a blue buff away from the Evelynn, which will go a long way to saving this game from getting out of hand. So yes, Evelynn has had the upper hand in the early game in terms of ganking and a bit of lane pressure, but a large part of that, of course, is Talon's shove and roam play style, getting into the enemy jungler, warding, and so on. So these two events happen in sequence. Evelynn takes her red buff, she goes up to the top lane, she gets a really nice gank off on the Urgot, easy to kill with the Fiora and her burst damage, and then on the counter side of the map, Jarvan and Soraka finish off that blue buff and then immediately go to the mid lane. Almost all the red team's vision is now expired or been taken down, and so Talon doesn't see them coming, and of course, Assassin Guide 101. If you get 3-man gang and you have a low enemy in front of you, you ult and try and finish them off to take someone with you. Sadly, it is a Poppy and a tank mid laner to counter you, so you don't quite get the kill, and Jarvan exerts his own pressure. However, Evelynn has had time now because she ganked first to take that Scuttle Crab away from him. He doesn't even bother venturing, he just hops over to his blue and hits the plant to make sure it's safe to take, and now we can reset a little bit. So after catching up a little bit on her farm, Evelynn now has a bit of an XP advantage. Jarvan has gone back to buy. Thanks to a Talon ward by his Raptors and thanks to a Soraka ward by Evelynn's blue, they both actually see each other but don't know that they've seen each other. And that always leads to some exciting plays. So Jarvan decides he's going to invade and try and get a tower dive off on the Lucian, maybe counter gank the Evelynn. The problem is the minion wave isn't quite there yet and they know where he was, so anticipate him coming. Evelynn is Chemish and she can just sit there. Now, she's in between the Soraka and the Jarvan, and when Jarvan shows again, she decides to go in. However, the Jarvan uses his ultimate, uses his combo, and it's actually enough to force Evelynn to flash out. So what happens is they just end up burning ult for ult, but the Lucian is significantly more fed than the Ezreal is. So in the subsequent fight, Jarvan manages to escape out the back of the Fire Drake pit, but Lucian picks up the Soraka, Poppy comes in to kill the Lucian, and in the end, after all the fight is said and done, the red team comes out ahead again. They've killed 4 versus only losing 2, so that move was probably a little bit too aggressive. He needed to either wait for the minion wave, maybe lane gank. They had no idea where anyone else was. The Shen was roaming and flanking from the side. Talon has higher burst damage. It wasn't the best fight to pick, especially considering there's a fire drake on the map and you're not sure where everyone is, in addition to actually being behind at the moment. So what Evelynn does is smart. She actually waits for the scuttle crab to spawn before taking it and going back. Because your team is low in health and some have died, there is a risk that the enemy who will respawn first could group up and get back and take the fire drake before you are able to sort of get back into the area. So having that scuttle up will give vision and of course any sort of movement speed advantage if a fight does break out in that zone. So being patient to take that scuttle before you go back is actually fine. So what happens next isn't really the Jarvan's fault, it's just a byproduct of the enemy team compositions and the fact that Soraka loves to roam a bit too much perhaps. So the next sequence of events happens at the same time, so we'll look at Jarvan first. He clears his red and his bottom side camps, and then he moves on down to defend the bottom lane because he knows that Soraka is going up to the top side to try and gank the Fiora. But he goes a little too aggressive and in trying to defend the tower, just dies. He is quite far behind overall and the Lucian's quite far ahead. It's not really a risk worth taking, and they lose the first tower gold and his life, which means he's lost all map pressure. We'll revisit the impact of this once we looked over what Evelynn was doing. She actually went for a counter gank on the top lane anticipating some sort of action, but runs into the Poppy who's just basically looped around and tower dove. The Fiora is long gone, but the Talon and Evelynn are quite fed and can easily win a 3v2 when the enemy has notable cooldowns like Urgot's ult, which is off the map. So they're able to salvage that situation a little bit and defend their own tower while Lucian grabs that first tower of his own. Now Evelynn knows that Jarvan has just died and so decides to move on down to see if she can pick off one of the low HP targets that got away. Realizing that that's not on the table, she just simply takes Jarvan's Gromp and Wolves. Now when Jarvan respawns, he's now down 2 levels because of this, and he shouldn't even begin to head in that top direction. He should have anticipated and known that Evelynn was highly likely just to take his camps away, considering he was dead. So at this point, Soraka checks the fire drake and you can see Lucian and Shin are soloing there by themselves. So a huge sequence of events that throws the game heavily into Evelynn's favor because she had the mid prio and had a lot of active ganking herself, in addition to just being able to farm faster as well as counter jungle faster to stack her harvest. Now because Soraka checks the fire drake, the red team pulls off a little bit and Jarvan decides, hey wait a second, I shouldn't be going to the blue side of my map, I need to go straight to the dragon. However, the Evelynn is flanking from the top side. It's a 4v2 fight against the Poppy and the Soraka, and Jarvan's of course way too late to the rotation, so they're able to kill them, and now they can turn to secure that fire drake without any pressure. The fact that he didn't just head straight there in the first place, knowing Evelynn's probably taken my topside camps, means that they lose a fight and they lose a dragon. Now, he probably wasn't going to be able to do anything about it anyway, given he was 2 levels down, but you want to be there to at least disengage for your team or to deter any further action. Because if the enemy knows that, of course, you're up and your whole team is in the area, maybe they're low and haven't spent their gold, they haven't had that gold reset I spoke about in the previous video, well, they might not take their dragon. So Jarvan does make the right play, however. After this, he takes its topside scuttle. He knows that Lucian's probably going to lane swap and head to the top lane, so he sets a trap with the Urgot in order to take him out of the map and buy his team some time to sort of depressurize the waves and catch up on their own golden experience. All this has happened while Evelynn is just fully clearing her jungle, so it's the right play to make in this case. You get the shutdown on Lucian and you take him off the map. At the same time, you get a bit of catch-up XP taking the Krugs, which of course higher level than you at this point considering the Evelynn's clear speed, and Urgot takes that tower as well. And now basically the jungle power thing and the mind games are pretty much finished for this game. It's going to be a case of how the teams ward, group, and play the tower siege game as well as handle split pushes with the Talon, but I will talk while I show a few of the team fights that happen. The assassin combination of Talon and Evelynn with bad vision and flanking possibilities can be really devastating, especially when they're ahead. The fact that they have a Soraka with the silence and the heals coupled with J4's CC, peel, and tankiness means that team fights will in large part be won by how well each team member on either side knows how to play the champions and knows how to beat the enemy team's champions. In the case of Evelynn and Talon, that can be quite difficult, especially with a Shen combination, but it is worth noting that Jarvan's team does end up winning this game because of a few nice team fights later in the game. Unfortunately, for some reason, replays don't tend to go all the way to the end now, and this was a longer game, but at this stage, Evelynn is definitely way more fed and has probably had the better jungling game, but that's in large part due to the fact that her mid lane was Talon, and Jarvan did his best to get advantages where he could, counter jungle where he could, and was at least present for some counter ganks and some ganking pressure. It's also worth noting that the Jarvan does a very smart thing later on in a few minutes when his team loses a big team fight and he wasn't there to help out. He secures that scuttle and quickly takes a fire dragon solo while the Evelynn was going back. This is a huge thing in helping delay the ending of the game, because if you give them that second fire dragon, you're gonna have a very difficult time with that added damage and an assassin team comp that is far ahead. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and share if you enjoyed. Please check the description if you want to support the channel further. Subscribe for more jungle and League of Legends videos coming soon. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.